His wife signed for it. It was double wrapped. He got home, and he's no longer employed.
No longer employed.
No longer employed because someone made a mistake and sent him a classified document.
Well, I can tell you this. I was in the Air Force. I spent 4 years in the Air Force, and part of that was overseas on the island of Okinawa during the Vietnam War, before I got to go down myself. And every day we would fly missions out of Kadena Air Force Base with B-52s, KC-135s and B-52s. And they roundly denied that any of these missions were taking place. I mean, absolute flat denials. Every day, the local Okinawan television station, Channel 12, Ryukyu Hoso, would go up to the gate. You know, they could get as close as the gate. Mm-hmm. And they would take these photographs of B-52s directly coming over them. The camera was shaking, you know, as the B-52 would rise up, and then they'd just track it. And then they would go to the base spokesman, and they would point out this video, and the base spokesman would stand there with a straight face and say, "No B-52s fly from this base." Just a little hint of, and this went on for a couple of years.
Yeah. Did he ever get a job in the presidency or anything?
Well, it's interesting, you know, the Washington, D.C. overflight that Darrell was talking about?
Yes.
The following Monday, General Stanford called a press release. It was the biggest press release since the end of World War II, and attempted to explain to the press that what they had seen, our best interceptors had spent hours trying to intercept, have been tracked by our best radars at the time. Tried to explain that these were either a temperature inversion, a meteor, or the planet Mars and Jupiter.
That's the reason they threatened these people, and they quit their career because of ionized air.
Yeah, right.
Some bad air out there, all right, but it wasn't that.
Now, the both of you left your intelligence work, respectively, and I spent a little bit of time earlier in the program asking you about, then, the kind of individual that becomes a lifer. In other words, the one who does not make waves, integrates into the system, and doesn't want to know anything he shouldn't know, doesn't want to tell anything he shouldn't tell, and becomes the perfect little soldier. And over a period of time, isn't that generally what we end up with? And so should we be surprised that we have this kind of information wall? In other words, these are people who don't make waves. They're not going to come forward. They're not going to say anything. They're probably, for the most part, going to go to their graves with their information.
This is generally true. However, I've located some people over the years. One of them is a lieutenant commander in my little list of military-type people who are coming forward. He is a lieutenant commander, he claims, and is willing to come forward. He was a member of Project Blue Book, and I said, would you come forward on camera with this? And he said, absolutely. And I said, well, basically, what information do you have that was of any interest to anyone? And he said, well, basically, we lied about everything. He said, I don't know about abductions and all that sort of thing.
You mean Blue Book?
Absolutely.
In other words, it was an intentional opportunity to run around to wherever there might be an incident and explain it away or dispense with evidence or whatever.
That was his assertion.
You believe him?
I think so, based on the other things I've found. One other thing I found in this rather interesting situation in 1952, I found this individual here in Houston, rather shocked by this, but this individual actually was part of a roving anti-aircraft gunnery unit that was on the ground during the time the UFOs came over twice in Washington, D.C. They had anti-aircraft gunnery units. Now, why in the world would they have roving anti-aircraft gunnery units on the nights the UFOs were over the Capitol? And, I mean, what would the purpose of a anti-aircraft gunnery unit be?
Well, they only have one that I know of. I mean, they're supposed to shoot stuff down.
Well, this would indicate to me that they had the idea that there was a threat there.
Mm-hmm. Again, I was in the military, and the mentality worries me a little bit, and now I'm coming back to the fact that we do appear to be shooting at these things. Now, check me if I'm wrong here, but just casual thinking has brought to me the following, and that is that if they are here from light years or dimensions or whatever we want to imagine away, meaning they have technology we cannot even begin to imagine. Now, shooting at these people would seem to me to be a poorly constructed idea, generally one that you would expect from the military, but poorly constructed. And if in fact they are real, it's liable to end up with something terrible happening to us.
Could we reverse that? In UFO Danger Zone, an excellent book by Bob Pratt, we find for nearly 30 years UFOs doing the same things to human beings in the Amazon region.
You mean abductions?
Not just that, but shooting little laser lights at them and at these people. Many of them injured, and some of them even died as a result. It doesn't make any sense to me if these beings or craft or whatever are from wherever out there, and they're supposed to be highly intelligent and everything else, why they would be doing this sort of thing to people. And much of the torture part of this sort of scenario usually comes in areas where people are least able to do anything about it. I mean, one gentleman in a case I'm investigating in Brazil had his eyes surgically removed after his abduction.
What?
And now this is the type mentality that some of these other people that think these beings are here to save the planet and fix the ozone hole and a few other things, which they haven't done since they've been here. I fail to understand why. And you might say, well, that was only one instance, and it was just a lab rat. They just took his eyes. But why for 30 years they've done this sort of thing to people? And as I said, UFO Danger Zone is the name of the book. Bob Pratt's the one that wrote it with a forward by Jacques Vallée.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. I would say removing a person's eyes is really serious as far as I'm concerned.
Especially if it were the person's eyes who felt like they were here to save the planet. You might think differently about that after that.
Well, it may be that there are different groups that are here, and many people say that, and some may be friendly and some may not be so friendly. But shooting at them just seems like a poorly constructed idea, unless they're really doing something to our national security that is really frightening. And even then, shooting at something with that much technology, I mean, you should think a lot before you do it.
Have you ever heard?
Interestingly enough, some of these UFOs seem to have shot at each other, which indicates that some of them don't even agree with each other, or there may be, as you say, different groups.
Have either of you gentlemen ever heard of the Planetary Defense Workshop?
I have not.
No.
What is that?
That was a group that was met in 1995 and again in 1997 to work out areas to defend this planet, and the stated reason was asteroids and meteors. But they had some real heavy hitters on there, people from U.S. Air Force.
All right, we'll pick up on this in a second. We're at the bottom of the hour, and I would like to open the lines, and we've got two very good experts here, and so I'd like to get to questions, okay?
Sure.
Coming up. Good morning. Unusual opportunity for you. We're about to open the lines here. We have two experts, Ronald Regier, who designed spy satellites, and Daryl Sims, who was CIA. If you have questions, we're about to get the lines open. All right, back now to my guests, Ronald Regier and Daryl Sims. Gentlemen, welcome back. We were talking about a planetary defense, and you know, Ronald Reagan, I don't know how many times, made reference to the possibility that we might, as a planet, need to defend ourselves. And he made that reference, I suppose, in trying to justify Star Wars. I don't know. Either that or he knew something that we're still trying to find out ourselves. What do you think?
From what I heard, he made the statement 5 times.
Yep.
And Premier Gorbachev also made an almost identical statement once that I'm aware of.
Right.
And during the break, I highlighted some on the Planetary Defense Workshop participants. There's 7, 8 pages, 15 people per page. Chief of Kinetic Impact Branch at Phillips Laboratories at Kirtland Air Force Base, the Director of Advanced Projects at Edwards Air Force Base, Chief Scientist, Planetary Institute at Tucson, the Andreev Astronomical Observatory from the Czech Academy of Science in the Czech Republic, Russian Federal Nuclear Center, Novgorod Region, Russia, Chief Scientist, the Pentagon,